All right, so I want to talk about your dosha or your constitution and your workouts. You've seen I've drawn these little pictures here where we have the Vata constitutions. Vata is made of two elements, air and ether. They're the people that carry a lot more lightness in their frame, a lot more lightness in their spirit, lightness in their physiology. They have trouble with being grounded in breath body practices. Their constitutions are more fragile than their Pitta or Kapha counterparts, and their counterparts that have more earth and water, that's Kapha, and their counterparts that have more Pitta, which is fire. So we'll talk a little bit about how Vata exercise is a little different than Pitta or Kapha. If your primary constitution is Pitta, this is drawn as, I've drawn someone with a triangle torso here where their shoulders are wider than their hips. They often have a narrower waist, broader shoulders. They're fiery, they're intense, they like to work out hard, they like to hit the ground running, but they tend towards, out of balance with exercise, they tend towards inflammation and injury due to inflammation. They tend to overdo it and burn out. So we want to take that into consideration with Pittas. Kapha, my Kapha buddy here on the end, you can see he's got a lot more physicality to him. So this is the earth and water constitution where there's this enormous amount of density and stability in the physiology, but there can also be a heaviness, right? So out of balance, a Kapha will feel heavy and will feel more or less like weighed down. And that can really affect Kapha's motivation to exercise. So I want to talk a little bit about the optimal states for exercise for each of the different constitutions. I also want to point out that these different constitutions are dominant in different phases of life. So regardless of what your personal constitution is, between birth and young adulthood is the Kapha phase of life for that person. The adult phase of life is dominated by Pitta dosha, and old age is dominated by Vata dosha. So regardless of your constitution, these workouts or exercise regimens, if you're in older age and you're a Kapha, right, you're going to have still a lot of this Vata type tendencies I'll talk about, and you'll want to prevent some of the issues that arise for Vata because you're in older age. If you're a Vata type and you're a teenager, just know like this is your Kapha time of life. So you're going to have a little bit more of the stamina and stability that comes from the experience of Kapha energy in your physiology because you're in that phase of life. All right, so now let's get into, we'll start with Kaphas here as a constitution and how to design your workout if you're more Kapha. I'm married to a Kapha and I have quite a bit of Kapha in my own physiology, which is an ease in building muscle. It's an ease in building all kinds of bodily tissue. If you're more Kapha, you gain weight without thinking about it. Your body puts on mass really, really easily. It's easy to form, and it's easy to form muscle tissue. It's easy also to form fat tissue. If you're Kapha, if you look back on your photo history of yourself, you'll notice like you always had like thicker bones, bigger head, bigger lips, bigger boobs, bigger butt. Like you are a bigger person. You just have more physicality without being overweight. You just have a lot more density to your constitution. The hard part for Kapha with working out is because Kapha's energy naturally goes down, and in the morning time, if they're not living in sync with the habits, they can wake up feeling kind of dreamy and floaty and soft and not like Pittas, like supercharged, motivated to get their breath body practices on. Now, the irony of it all is Kapha has the most stamina. They have the most energy to burn. They have the most strength to support an incredible workout, an incredible hard cardio workout, the stuff we went in the last video. If they can get going, if they can spark their fire and start to sweat, they have the best endurance. They can go and go and go and go and go and go and go. It's amazing, the stamina endurance of a Kapha who's in balance. When you look at NBA players or NFL players, you're prominently looking at the Kapha Pitta body type, where the Kapha is primary. You see these people are very big, very strong, very fit, and have tremendous endurance for performance. All right, so for Kaphas, their workouts have to be more cardio and more hardening. And guess what? often they don't want to. Often they're like, that's too hard. I'd rather just take it easy and, just do something gentle today. And so this is one of the things, often the constitutions we often go against ourselves when we're out of balance. The more we're in balance, the more we sync up. So for a kapha who's in balance, their workout schedule is going to look like hard cardio, like a hard cardio workout or a challenging cardio workout, a challenging hardening workout, which would be weightlifting, maybe a moderate softening workout where it's an active yoga practice. The next day might be an active or moderate cardio workout, so they're maybe going for a run that day. The next day might be a soft and an easy practice. They're just doing some foam rolling, and then bam, they're right back into a challenging cardio or challenging hard end cardio, like a hit workout. That would be for a typical adult kapha. It's more or less their lifeline for kaphas to figure out the best breath body practice to optimize their incredibly strong, dense physiology. And when they figure that out, they've basically taken this descending energy and they've turned on their sweat. Right now they've got massive heart pumping, blood circulating. So now all of a sudden this earth element can rise and they glow and they're grounded and they're upright and they're motivated and they can move worlds here. And this is the phenomenal benefit of a kapha constitution imbalance. Again, I see time and again that kaphas default to their lazy, downward moving, watery, gravitational energy, and they don't develop the habit. And it can be a very slow, long process of developing the habit to turn the juice up and to get enough hard and cardio workouts, to get enough challenging and moderate workouts into the regimen. Once they figure that out, they can't believe how much more energy, focus, and also emotional availability they have. They're not as shut down, right? They're not as depressed. The weight of their physiology isn't any longer weighing them down. They've turned the water in their fat tissue into the fire in their muscle tissue. And in that, they've dehydrated the excess liquid and they start to have much more shape and definition and bulging muscles, right? And they have incredibly shapely constitutions under all this, and it starts to come out. And you start to look at like, wow, that person is in their body and they're strong and they're ready to rock. All right, so that's a bit on kapha. Again, as kaphas go into vata time of life, like the other constitutions in old age, the other vata and pitta constitutions will look at the kaphas and they'll just be super jealous because these guys are able to maintain their muscle mass longer. As we go into older age, we start to become a lot more air ether. We get lighter. We unlock the keys to our subtle anatomy. The kaphas later in life they still have so much more physical abundance than their other counterparts, and it enables them to have a lot more fluidity in their joints and mass in their muscles for longer if they do these breath body practices. Okay, let's shift to pitta next. So these are our fiery people. These are the people that if they go with their natural tendency with exercise, again, they can overdo it. These are the people that wake up, they're like, I'm going to do the hard stuff. I'm going to do the cardio stuff. I want challenging workouts 5 days a week. I don't want a rest day. I don't have time to do the softening practices. And that's the typical pitta drive, because pitta is fiery. It's got vision and wants to go somewhere and do something and accomplish something. It's got to hit its goals. So we've got to shift the pitta goals here, because again, pitta is very centered towards goals. Kapha is very centered on like, let's have a good time. So for a kapha, they might need a buddy to do a lot of this, because if they're having fun, then they can go forever. Pitta is super goal oriented. Often they don't need partners. They can do it alone. It doesn't matter who's going with them. They're going to get it done. And so for them to include in their goals their softening practices, this is key. Because they need to learn their fire goes up, 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 and it's a flame. We need to learn how to bring some water down. We need to learn how to soften and nourish and hydrate our tissue between our hard and our cardio workouts. So what's so helpful for pitta is often a pitta who has an injury will then discover yoga, or will then discover a foam roller, or then discover qigong, will then discover like the bar and be able to do things that calm their awareness down, calm the cardio down, get them moving their breath in their body. And that's really fantastic for pittas. Pittas are often really great at like setting up their their workout charts and knowing what they're doing time to time. It can be really helpful too for them to do something socially, right? To do things just because they're fun, just because they feel really good. It's great for Pitta to have a check-in, right? Of like, hey, am I getting too hard? Am I getting stiff? Am I so driven that I've lost connection with my breath? And if so, and in the workout, like slow it down. Start each workout with more slowness, more connection to breath, and let it more gradually go cardio, gradually get hard, and then come back down to the softening and the breath at the end of the workout to connect back in. And that can just help so tremendously with injury prevention and with longevity of practice. Okay, so our Kapha counterparts over here, our Vata counterparts. Vatas they're light and they're etheric, and they have a fragility. They don't have this naturally occurring density of the Kaphas. They don't have the drive of the Pittas. These are our gentle spirits. And so their workouts, they don't actually have to work out as hard. They don't have to have nearly as many hardening workouts as their Pittas and Kaphas. It doesn't mean they don't have none, because if they have none, they miss an opportunity to build bone tensile strength, right? The tensile strength in their bone tissue. That comes from weight-bearing exercises. That comes from some hardening workouts. But for Vata's hardening workout, there's gonna be a very, it's not gonna be like, I was gonna say balls to the walls. I guess I did say that, as a Kapha workout will be. It's gonna take into account that they're not that big boned, that they need to be gentle with themselves, that they need to do this in proportion to their size and their strength. They're also gonna, because Vatas tend towards hardness, they're light and dry, so it's easy for their bodies to dehydrate. So they're going to want to include plenty of softening and hydrating practices. So I'm just going to write that in as like hydrating and gentle are some of my key words when I'm designing a practice for someone, an overall like week-to-week practice for someone that has more Vata in their constitution. Often Vatas think they should be able to keep up with the super driven, goal-oriented Pittas, or with the Kaphas are enduro. You want to think of enduro when you think of Kapha. A Kapha goes out of balance if they're not pushing themselves to deeper levels of endurance. Now, Vatas are like this gentle flower over here, and if they're trying to keep up with their Kapha counterparts or their goal-oriented Pitta counterparts, they're going to break. They're going to wear out. They're going to get exhausted. They're going to develop an autoimmune disease from having broken down their immune system. Like, this is what happened. I see this happen in real time all the time. The point isn't to keep up. The point is to oxygenate you, to take care of you, to stay connected with what you need, and knowing that a lot of the rest of the world may have very, very different needs. The reason I drew a really tall, thin Kapha and then a much more petite, smaller Vata, tall, thin Vata, and a much more petite Vata, is Vata shows up in extremities. So often, if you're Vata constitution, you might be very tall and interesting looking, or quite petite and interesting looking. Vata is an aberration from what is kind of normal or symmetrical. And so Vatas often have very interesting looking, they're very, very interesting looking people because they can be a little bit different. And if that's us, we want to say like, okay, well, we're not just like everyone else. We want to treat ourselves and our practices in a way that really nurture us as individuals. If a Vata isn't doing a softening practice that's breath connected and easeful, like foam rolling and yoga, tai chi, qigong, they're not going to feel as coordinated. And because often, especially for the taller, lankier Vatas, this is an issue of just being coordinated and getting in their body. Of course, this is true of all constitutions, but it's much more true for Vatas who naturally have a sense of it's hard to connect the sky with the earth. It's hard to be in the body and grounded in their feet. So a lot of Vata type workouts are going to be to actually bring the energy, because the energy is up here for them. And can we bring this energy? Can we bring this energy down? Right? Can we just calm, center? And the workouts should very much be grounding, or always end in grounding. And that can just simply be feet flat on the floor, knees bent. I'm here. I can just be here now. Everything's all right as it is. And it's just a very calming practice at the end. Just, here I am. Okay, so I hope you see a little bit of insight in who you are, in which stage of life you're in, and a little bit of what happens with the different constitutions and the different goals of the workout. And again, look at your workout sheet and design your workout more with your constitution. There's also that extra worksheet in the workbook where you can see all the different practices that align with hardening, softening, cardio, challenging, moderate, easy, and Vata, Pitta, Kapha. I hope this gives you some insight to how to design your workouts as you move through the different stages of life.